Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Business Spotlight. I'm your host today, Todd Rodden. I'm a certified executive business coach. I own Aspire Action Coach in the Dayton, Ohio area. And excited today to have Andy Sharpe here with us. Andy is the owner of Sharpe Creative, and we'll get more into that in a second. He can tell his journey as a business founder and owner. If you're new to the Business Spotlight, we're thrilled to have you here with us today. Encourage you to go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can not only receive this, but future messages we have from business owners really across the U.S. as they share their journeys and lessons learned as well. So, Andy, we're thrilled to have you here again. Uh, Maybe take a minute, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about Sharpe Creative.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Andy Sharpe. I run Sharpe Creative, so it's a very creative name where I've just taken my last name, applied it to my services. But basically, it's a branding development company. So I focus on, how a company can differentiate how they look, sound, feel, and then that often translates into, kind of the visual identity stuff, your logo, your colors, your messaging. And then often that spins into website. So it's kind of a almost brand development website, kind of both in tandem are most of the projects I end up doing for people.
So, hey, thank you for that overview. And again, encourage folks to go check out Andy's website at www.sharpecreative.com. You can see some of the great work he's done and some of the brands he's helped work with and develop. So, Andy, walk us through. How did you get started? Why branding, and why is that a passion of yours? And then how did you get the business launched?
Yeah, I did the traditional college design school route, and I always gravitated toward logo design. So that was kind of my gateway into the brand world. And then I got kind of into working with advertising agencies, marketing firms, design studios, that sort of thing, for a number of years, and saw more of that side of the branding, and did a lot of web design, print design, branding, kind of all of it. And so I got to dabble in all the different disciplines, and branding was kind of the thing that always kept drawing me back to it because it touches everything else. So, I always refer to working for ad agencies as kind of like my boot camp, where it was like I developed all these kind of disparate skills that have kind of gone into this branding focus. So it allows me to be small, but have a lot of people use that T-shaped skill mindset where it's you go deep on one or two things and kind of wide and shallow on a number of other things. So that's sort of how I view my business, as deeper on the branding side, and then kind of all the ancillary things that touch it. So yeah, agency background, and then even spent some time teaching in college. That naturally spun into freelancing on the side, and then turning this Sharpe Creative into a full-time thing. So I've been at it full-time for about 3 years now, and tweaking and refining things each year. So
Hey, thank you for sharing that. So maybe describe your role. What's a day in the life look like for you with the company?
yeah, I'm a purposeful owner operator, which I know a lot of people. I've gotten a lot of advice that says, you need to get out of doing the work and just manage the work. But my owner operatorness is definitely by design. So I've always liked making and creating and actually doing the work. I think if I was just managing a team or a couple people doing that, I would go a little bit insane. So it's I try and structure it in a more intimate way, where like if somebody goes to an ad agency and they want a brand developed, they might work with an account manager, and then that account manager passes information to a creative director, and then that creative director talks to the design team, and there's a lot of layers there. So I try to structure it where I can work with businesses, not super small but not big, where I can work directly with the owner or the decision maker, and we can talk about their brand and kind of cut through all the noise a little bit. So yeah, I'm hoping to kind of remain owner operator. I could maybe grow into a very small team in the next handful of years, like 2, 3, 4, maybe max. But right now I'm kind of liking this mix.
So you hit on this brief a little bit. Tell us more about, who are your target customers? So if I was in the audience listening to you today, how would I know I might be a great fit for your services?
Yeah, I've always liked, my background is a very wide variety. I mean, I've worked on anything from hospital networks to rock bands to amusement parks to restaurants and kind of anywhere in between. So I like that variety. So I tend to not like focus on a niche of industry or anything like that. I have certain ones I gravitate toward, but really for me, it's that business who wants to, they realize they're kind of maybe smaller potatoes than they could be. They have something great to offer the world, they're passionate about it, and they want to kind of look the part, and sound the part of the great things they offer. So it's really any small to medium business that fits that bill, that is open-minded and sort of passionate about what they do and ready to take kind of like a bigger, bolder step.
Do you see any difference whether somebody is maybe more of a startup, kind of newer in their journey, or maybe it's been long established, maybe kind of set in their ways? Do you have any focus either way there?
Yeah, to some degree, I get a mix of both. So usually, if they're more established, it's they're coming to me because something major has changed. Maybe they're doing kind of a pivot with the business. They're taking a new strategic direction, so they need a refresh to kind of reflect that. So the budgets are often bigger for an established company, obviously. But one thing I try to do is not upsell services. Like for a startup, I would never suggest a proposal like I would for an established business. So I'd work with either, but I want to be responsible in tailoring what I suggest to a startup. So I would propose something scrappy of like, let's get you off the ground running. Let's maybe do a 1.0 and think about a 2.0 for your brand, and kind of build it that way. So I guess that's the biggest difference between a startup and established, is I know right off the bat they're going to have a pretty scrappy budget, and I have to think about how to get them the most bang for their buck, within reason.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course. Thanks for that clarification. So, what's the one thing you wish more people knew about your business?
Um, oh, that's a tricky question. I guess the way I've structured my business, like I said, is the branding focus that most times turns into a website, and then sometimes that turns into a like ongoing support for design and whatnot. So I guess it's that understanding, because some people will come to me and be like, "Oh, I need a website," and I'll start to ask probing questions and say, well, why do you feel you need a website? And they'll start to say things like, it just doesn't sound like who we are, or we don't feel like who we are. And I was like, well, that's actually a branding problem. So I think the biggest understanding is getting people to see the forest for the trees, that often when they're having marketing issues or promotional issues, it's not this specific tactic or this specific brochure or website or thing. It might be your overarching, your brand, your message, or how you come across to the world.
So you obviously you hit on marketing, and you're a key part of your clients' marketing strategies. But how do you market your business? What seem to be the channels that work best and generate the most fruit for you and Sharpe Creative?
Ironically, I have little time to even think about marketing my business. It's one of those that's it just, I get word of mouth so often and so frequently. I'll post on social media. I have my website up, and then I always say it's not hard to keep one guy busy, So by the time I'm wrapping up projects, three more are rolling in. So it's one of those things where I almost haven't had time to really, in the 3 years I've been doing this, to sit down and even think about marketing as much as I'm just, I guess it's more brand focused. So I put who I am out there, what I stand for, and then it's more of a kind of a pull than it is a push. I'm not like going after people. They're either drawn to me or not. And I kind of like that mix where, like I said, I don't have big growth plans, but maybe if I did, I'd put more into marketing. But For right now, it's just that, being out there, being consistent, showing work, um, you know, commenting on social media, things like that seems to work pretty well.
Given your focus and the types of clients, is there one channel of social media that is one you really put the most focus on?
Yeah, it's a mixture of I'd say LinkedIn and Instagram. LinkedIn's great for kind of putting the more thought out there, like connecting with the right business owners, the decision makers, and that sort of thing. But with such a visual, product, Instagram's great because it can post process and images and things like that. So I've gotten clients from each.
So, given your journey over the last few years, what's been the most memorable roadblock, challenge that came your way, and how did you overcome it? What'd you learn from it?
Yeah, I don't know if there's one big one. I'd say, overall, the hardest lesson I've had to learn was that saying saying no can actually open more doors than always saying yes. I think my first year in, I would just, whatever came through the door, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, sure. Just put together quotes and move on with the project. And then each year I would shed more services essentially. So I would tell more clients that maybe it's not a great fit, or I can't do it for that budget, or this and that. And then what I saw after kind of doing that over 3 years was actually the income rose and the quality of the client rose. When back in the first year, I was terrified to do that because I was afraid I wouldn't make any income. So I think it's you develop confidence over a few years to realize that a good fit is better than just somebody in the door. So yeah, I think that's been the biggest thing that I'm constantly overcoming.
I'm intrigued by that. It's very interesting. So maybe go a little deeper on that, if you could, around is that you learned that maybe there were some types of services you shouldn't be offering anymore, so you could focus more on others, or was it a certain type of clientele, certain types of businesses? You said, I should shy away from them so I can focus more over here."
Yeah, it's probably a little of both. Like, I noticed that, like, if somebody came to me for a one-off design project, for example, that only has a certain value to it. So it's like you have to do a ton of those per year to kind of, hit a good salary. And they're time consuming. So for a big project, you obviously have meetings and milestones and all that. But even for a little project, it might seem simple, but there's still back and forth and emails and all that. And it just becomes, you do enough of those, it's not really worth it or very sustainable. So I was just kind of shifting to be like, I need to look at these bigger fish and then get those bigger projects and then use those bigger projects to sort of develop a relationship. And if that relationship works well, then we can do ongoing, like, if you need this and that month to month, we can figure out how to support that. But it was realizing that that relationship has to start with a bigger foundation rather than just whoever comes to the door for whatever size project. That makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. So a great lesson for folks listening to this, right? Of really trying to over time hone your niche, where you want to focus, where you're the most profitable, also where you probably get the most personal enjoyment, and go deeper there, and you'll actually find that there's a lot more business there than sometimes if you try to spread the peanut butter thinly all over the place, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So what comes next, right? You've been at this going on 4 years or so. Plus, you were obviously doing it previously before you went full time. So, where do you see the business going? You look down the road 3, 5 years from now.
Yeah, at the moment we have three small children. So my mind is how do I make the best income I can with the most flexibility I can? So that's kind of my mindset within the next several years is like how do I make the business serve family life as best as possible? And then once the kids get older, I could see possibly like expanding to a little more of a like a branding studio where maybe I bring in some disciplines that I personally don't have, like maybe there's a video or animator or a web developer or copywriter or something like that. Because I have relationships with those people as contractors, but if I were to grow a little bit, I could see those type of people coming on as staff.
Okay. You talked about how right now you're intentionally a solo entrepreneur at this stage, and given what you're trying to balance, it's understandable. But I'm sure there are times when you have uh, other resources you reach out to provide support, contractors and the like. So maybe talk through what types of services you do reach out to pull in to help you from time to time, and how do you build those relationships?
Yeah, a lot of those relationships have kind of stemmed from just past, industry experience and agencies and people I know, and then LinkedIn. I've met quite a few people just through LinkedIn too. But yeah, I think I always start, like I said, with that branding core because that's my skill set, and then often that turns into a website. And there's to some degree I can handle all that. Sometimes when it gets to the web portion, it's because of the scope or what the website needs to do. That's when I might need to say, hey, we need to bring in somebody, and we'll kind of quote that together and figure out what the scope of the project would be. So it really is an as needed thing. It's let's figure out your brand first, like get that dialed in, and then if we want to do a video, we'll bring in the right people. We'll plan a video. If we want to, build some more complicated feature on your website, we can figure out a way to make that happen. But it's definitely that focused brand first, then we'll bring in the troops.
Okay, based on the need. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about, hey, the roadblock that you had to overcome. You shared kind of how you learned to kind of narrow your focus. But now, as you sit here, you look forward. What's the biggest challenge you see in front of you now, or you anticipate over the next year?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I guess, the uncertainty of everything. You try to put blinders up, in the economy and this and that. And every year I inevitably freak out in January, December and January, because it seems to just kind of take a nosedive, and then every year it like ramps up hockey stick style. So I'm in that a little bit of a slower. I have a few projects going, but nothing like it was at the end of last year. So that's my roadblock, I guess, is I have to keep reminding myself that it does keep happening. This is normal every year. It slows down, and to try and put those blinders up and not just focus on what I'm doing and not pay attention to what could happen.
Okay, the fear of the unknown, right?
Yeah.
So before we go to the final question today, what's the best way for folks to connect with you, to follow you and Sharpe Creative?
Yeah, sharpecreative.com is my website. So it's sharp with an E at the end, creative. And then sharp.creative on Instagram would be another good spot. And both of those just gives a good idea of the type of work I do and for what clients and things like that. So yeah, if anyone would want to give a follow or just check either of those things out.
So say thanks for sharing that. So as we look to wrap here today, what's most inspiring to you today?
I'm just excited to be doing this as a solopreneur, I guess. It was something when I was in design school, I always thought that, someday maybe I would like to work for myself because the design industry is kind of primed to be able to do that. And then as I got rolling in my career, I sort of thought, oh, this is just a pipe dream. It's never going to happen. And if it does, I won't make any kind of money or do well at it. So I'm just excited that each year it seems to be doing better, and kind of just remaining open-minded and to see where each year goes. So that keeps me going, I guess.
All right. Well, Andy, thank you for sharing your story and the Sharpe Creative story. And again, encourage listeners to follow him and the company on the website and on Instagram, as he mentioned there as well. So Again, thanks to our listeners today. Encourage you to, again, subscribe to the channel and check out some of the other great messages from other business owners. And again, thank you, Andy, for joining us and telling your story here on today's Business Spotlight. Thank you, everybody, and have a terrific day.
Thank you.